Here we are once again. Very happy to have you out there watching, and it's always a pleasure for me to be here in the studio interviewing someone. I have a guest who has been on before, I think quite a while back though, actually, probably when he was first running for office. Now he's in office and he's a city councilor in the city of Fall River. Now I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's been very outspoken, asks a lot of questions, which is important. We have some city councilors, they don't ask too many questions. Sometimes the questions they ask, they're not even that relevant, but it's improvement. I think this council was an improvement over the last council, where we, well, the city, the citizens had people on that council that I would think actually needed to go. So, without any further comment, I want to welcome my guest, Richard Cabeceiras.
Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it.
Well, you know, I've watched you on the council, and I'm sure my audience, people out there have, and you know, you're not afraid or timid about getting an answer to a question that you have, and that's what the people, the voters, the citizens of Fall River deserve. So, well, anyway, the latest thing that seems to be swirling is the streetscapes.
Yes.
What is, we want to get the audience educated.
Fair enough.
What is a streetscape?
So the concept is we're going to revitalize a neighborhood, or a bunch of neighborhoods in this case. We're going to improve streets, sidewalks, facades, put trees in, benches, and trash cans in, or new trash bins in order to be able to make the place look more appealing to the eye. And the thought is that property values will increase and you'll be able to see more revenue received from these properties. And what ends up happening at that point in time is we're able to potentially reduce the tax burden for the residents of Fall River.
Now, I envision the streetscape as that there will be a certain location, like Stafford Square, just hypothetically speaking, and things will be done there to make that very eye-appealing. You
right.
Drive down, you come into that area. So what would be done to enhance Stafford Square, for instance?
So Stafford Square isn't one of the proposed projects at this point in time. At this point in time, we have Purchase Street, North Main, a portion of North Main, a portion of South Main, the Columbia Street, North Main Street, South Main Street intersection, Rock Street, Bedford Street, Bank Street, and East Main Street.
Well, let's take a familiar site, which is Columbia and South Main. Okay. So we have that. You know, we have the intersection. It's a fairly used, busy intersection. What would be done there?
So they're talking about taking that intersection and kind of infusing it with some of the arts. That was the initial proposal that we got from the administration. And then they're going to continue the projects out northbound on South Main Street, into North Main Street, up to the library. And
that far?
Yes.
Doing what?
They're going to improve sidewalks, streets, put new trash bins in to promote throwing away your trash, as well as bins that are going to look better,
well,
new light poles.
Not too long ago, they did do a lot of sidewalk work there, I believe.
Right.
And also the lighting, isn't that, I don't know if that's so-called period lighting along that area. Mm-hmm. Why would anything be done now if it's still usable and satisfactory? And
the thought is that what's going to happen is you're going to be able to see the benefit through increased property values. So by doing this, we're going to promote to people who drive through the area that, hey, maybe you want to stop here. And then by stopping there, maybe you're interested in buying property here. And by buying property there, we're able to increase demand, and increasing demand creates more value.
What about the family on one of the side streets,
right,
in the south end and north end? Their property values are not going to go up.
Well,
is this? I think people are wondering if these are designated areas to enhance the property values of certain people who have property in that area.
And I share that concern. I think one of the reasons why I supported part of the project, at least last night when we voted, I supported the project that I did, is because I think that it was the only project that was supposed to happen in this year when it was initially proposed to us. I've been advocating to test first, meaning try it somewhere, see if it works, see if our property values go up, see if the return on investment is there, and if indeed it is there, then what we do is we do more of it.
Well, not to interrupt you, but
No problem.
wouldn't it be more feasible if a streetscape scheme were done around the government center, which is, it's terrible. People can't find a place to park. It's busy. It has no attraction whatsoever. There is no there are no statues.
Right.
There's some plantings there along the divided roadway, but I mean, it doesn't have much of an appeal to it.
You bring up a very, very valid
And
question.
that is our property, the citizens of the city's property.
Right.
Not some private person who's going to get a benefit from our tax money that'll go into a streetscape.
And you actually bring up a very compelling thought. And the funny thing is, when Beta first did these proposals long before the career administration was there, City Hall was included. The project actually was North Main, Purchase Street, Rock Street, all the connecting streets there, in through City Hall and South Main Street, and I think part of Second was included in that as well. And the new administration has suggested that maybe we should try doing it in some other spots, and has got some renderings from the Beta group in order to be able to support those projects as well. But I tend to agree with you. I think what we should do is, and the research suggests, that we create a central area where the streetscapes exist, so everybody knows that they can go to that area, and then as it becomes successful, you expand outward. So that way everybody's able to take advantage of it.
Right, and I think what you were advocating was that these projects should be done piecemeal. No?
No, what I did say is, if we're going to do it, we test an area first, we make sure it's successful.
Well, that's
because
well, that's what I meant.
All right, yeah, because the way that it was proposed to us.
Do the City Hall first, maybe for an example.
Right.
And if the people like it, if it's enhanced the usability of the City Hall, where you can park, some trees, some benches, people feel comfortable. They take a bus maybe and they pay a bill, but just they stay around for a while.
Right. And I think part of the issue is we're potentially diving into this project as opposed to dipping our feet in, seeing if it works for us, because now we're locking up our bonding for an extended period of time. So, for instance, when the school comes and we know we're going to have to purchase a new school at some point in time, we're going to have to go for a debt exclusion for that, because now we've kind of locked up our bonding on streetscapes. We're going to come so close to that debt ceiling every single year that we're going to have to come to the taxpayers and ask for more money through debt exclusion.
Let me ask you if you know the answer to this question.
I may not know.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's been brought to the forefront many times over the years in regards to the debt of the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's unlimited, or not unlimited, it's unfunded liabilities. And apparently it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
So if you're referring to the OPEB liability, which is the pensions, I think we're at, I don't want to quote the number, it's because I don't want to scare people, but it's high. It's a lot higher than...
It's been mentioned before, and people have been scared. So
yeah.
maybe they're immune to it now.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I don't know the exact number, and I don't want to quote a number and potentially put people in fear, but it is high, and we need to do something about it. And actually, my committee, budget preparation, auditing, and revenue, we're going to be tackling that issue. So I think our next meeting is not next week coming, but the week after that.
Well, let me just put this out to you. If you want to come back on a program in the near future and talk about your committee and any outcome of what we're talking about now that you feel the public should know, you're welcome to come back on. There's no...
I appreciate it. And this committee is, in my opinion, groundbreaking when it comes to the City Council.
Is this a new committee?
Yes, this is a committee that Council President Kadim and I
Put together?
Pushed to put together. And
Yeah.
actually, he sits on the committee. That's one of the only committees that he sits on. I'm the chair of the committee, and I believe Councilor Pereira is on it as well. And it allows us to do some great things. First, it allows us to start diving into budget preparation far before we even start talking about it. Second, it allows us to audit departments, and we just passed a resolution that allows us to have supervisors and department heads come down
before.
and talk about how they spend their money, talk about the job that they do, and the idea is that we create transparency for the residents. We're telling you, hey, these are the things we do.
Way before budget time comes
And just in general,
you know.
because how many people know what, and I don't want to throw a department out, let's throw a department out there. How many people know what weights and measures does? Right, so now we're going to have the ability to say, hey, this is what this department does, this
That's
is
a
how
good
your money
idea.
is being spent. So budget auditing and revenue. We also have the ability to talk about new ways to generate revenue. So I think this is a very proactive committee, and we potentially are going to be able to solve issues before they ever come up. So that's exactly what I am trying to do in government, and I'm fortunate that I have other colleagues that feel the same way.
Well, that's a good committee.
Yeah.
Now, bonds, that's an item too that, do you have any idea how much liability the city has in regards to its outstanding bonds?
So what I like to look at as opposed to outstanding debt is I look at outstanding debt service, because debt service is the amount of money we pay in bonds every single year. And as of right now, we have that $10 million cap in debt service. So right now, if we do go over it, it looks like through the proposal through Streetscapes, we were going to go over it next year slightly. But as of right now, we're not allowing any more than $10 million in debt service.
Well, when you say debt service?
So debt service is the amount of money that we pay in principal and interest on our debt, which is our bonds, per year.
Do you know how much the total amount of bonds that are outstanding?
And again, I don't want to quote an exact number.
Yeah.
It's in the 100 millions.
It's a lot of money. And I guess what I'm leading to is that these bonds that the city takes out, of course, it has to pay interest on these bonds.
Right.
And it has to pay the principal.
Well,
and then what that does, it takes away from the revenue that comes into the city.
right.
You have only, the city has a limited amount of revenue that comes in.
Right.
And
Well-
there's some taxes and fees.
So municipal and business finance is a lot different than, not a lot, but somewhat different from house finance, because ultimately when you look at your personal finances, or I look at my personal finances, we have a goal, and the goal is to make sure that we're not paying any bills by the time we retire. So that way all of our debt is paid off, we've accomplished our goals, and we can live comfortably. In municipal government, the goal is to make sure that people have a better municipality day over day, and it gets better over time. So that means that we need to spend essentially as much money as we possibly, use money as efficiently as possible, and try to get as much money as we possibly can and make it work with as little dollars as possible. So one of the things that I talked about in last night's meeting is how we should approach our fiscal policy, how we should potentially change it. So we shouldn't be bonding for things that have 5-year useful lives, and we can only go out for a 5-year bond, because if we take the $1 million number, for instance, and we divide it by 5, we end up with $200,000 that we have to pay in principal per year on top of interest. But if we can take that $1 million number and spread it out over a 20-year period of time, now we're spending $50,000. So now you have $50,000 in principal, you're paying the debt on it, you're paying the interest on it, but you're able to really go out and get things that you can't pay for with your regular dollar.
I know, but the interest could kill you in the end, because...
And that's why you make sure that you keep a debt ceiling. That's why you say we won't spend any more than this amount of money in debt service. And that number should be a percentage of revenue. Unfortunately, we don't do that. And actually, comparatively speaking, I can tell you this for a fact. Comparative to other municipalities that are like size and our gateway cities, we are conservative when it comes to bonding. We're very conservative when it comes to bonding, because our debt service is about 3.5 to 4% of our revenue per year, and other municipalities are in the 7%, 8% range, and that's still healthy. if we get up into the 15% range, that would not be healthy at that point in time.
Now, getting back to the streetscapes, there was some controversy as to, and I think you brought this up, whether it should go to the voters.
Right. So
because it was going to be over how much?
It was all the streetscapes projects together at 12 million. We had 10 million in front of us that night, 10 million plus, and it was an order filed by Councilor Mitchell and I. And
if it's over 10 million?
It's 5 is the number.
Oh, okay. If it's over 5, it has to go to the voters.
That's right.
And go ahead, tell me the outcome.
And the argument was that they're each individual projects, but every single project was called Streetscapes, and then when you read the description, they basically say the same exact thing. It says to improve the facade and infrastructure of a neighborhood, and then it would say this district here. Now, even if you say, well, some of it is in different parts of the city and that doesn't count, that's fine. But there are some parts of this streetscape that actually touch each other, mainly the area around City Hall. That's about $8 million worth of this project, which means that if that were your argument, you would still have to send $8 million out to the voters at that point in time. And frankly, I'm not a big fan of the council and the administration picking and choosing the rules that it wants to follow, circumventing rules, not doing things in the right order. We saw that a bunch of times. We were told in March or April that we can't file an order, and then in June we were filing orders. We were told that we can't divide the budget, and then when the outcome didn't come the way that they wanted it to, we had the ability to divide the budget.
So what was the, let the audience know, what was the city's argument in regards to, well, it's not over $5 million because what? It's going to be done, this will be done.
They'll be done at different times.
This will be done for one.
Right, so they said that they're each individual projects because they'll be done at different times and they're in different locations, even though some of these streets
But you're going to vote, but it wasn't your argument, but the city, the council is going to vote for the full amount? So the full amount is over $5 million.
Well, the rule says it's $5 million for an individual project or $20 million for multiple projects. So they're trying to say that these projects together are separate in and of themselves, and that's why they don't meet the $5 million rule, when indeed they're the same project.
Will the city come before the council and say, this is the project, which is the first one, and it's for $3 million?
Now you're bringing up another issue where when have you ever seen a council approve bond orders for 3-4 years out? I've never seen that before. We just, in essence, approved projects for 3 to 4 years out that aren't going to be done, or aren't even going to be started.
And it's over $5 million.
So why is the council in the interest of approving projects that the next council should be approving? We essentially have hamstrung the next council, and we've given the keys to the bus.
Yeah, it seems that the city presented a very dubious argument. And
it's great hearing that from an attorney, frankly.
My first glance at it, you know, if you're going to come with one project and it's $2 million, that's fine. You vote for it. You do the project. You come back 6 months later, you say, well, we're going to do the second project, and it's $3.5 million.
Right.
But don't tell us you're going to present 6 projects, and they're going to be over $5 million, but because they're going to be done separately, it doesn't fall under the over $5 million.
And the funny thing,
to the voters.
Right.
It's a circumvention of the voters, it seems. I think your argument was right, along with, I guess,
Councilor Mitchell.
Councilor Mitchell.
And the funny thing is, I had asked, when are these projects going to be done? And I was told, I don't know, by the administration. So I had to go off the previous proposal that we had where the only project that was going to be done this year was Purchase Street. So I did approve the Purchase Street project because I believe in the streetscapes. I think that we should have a test area, and I supported the one project that we should be voting on this year in front of us. Now, if you're making the argument that they're separate projects, then we should be not voting on it in this bond order, because we should then be voting on all of the 2000 FY18 budget items with that council at that point in time, because somebody may resign, somebody may do something else.
And then you don't know what the budget is going to be.
Right.
A year or two from now.
Right. We, in my opinion, by doing exactly what we did last night And unfortunately, I'm guilty by association, even though I tried standing my ground on this. I think that we potentially put the residents of Fall River in potential trouble.
Now, the other thing is, we'll leave that aside for a while.
No problem.
Why does Fall River, why is Fall River continually referred to as a gateway city?
So
I'm going to lay the foundation of my question first.
Fair enough.
In the sense that long ago, Fall River was a gateway city. People came from Europe, they came to Fall River, they worked, and it was a toehold in the United States of America. But we don't have that anymore. No one's coming from Europe into Fall River like they did before. Matter of fact, the only people that come into Fall River are usually people from other parts of the United States.
right.
So people have, wondered, why is Fall River still referred to as a gateway city?
So a gateway city is a state term, and it refers to the education attainment level has to be below a certain level, and I think
Below a certain level?
yes, and the I want to say its median income has to be below a certain level as well.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, I don't have my trusty orange laptop in front of me to do the exact research and give you. But if you go to if you type Google Gateway City, Massachusetts, it will tell you exactly the definition of a gateway city. And we're not the only one. There's, I want to say, 20 or 30 gateway cities in the state. Some of them you wouldn't expect to be gateway cities. Places like Chicopee and places that are spending 13, 14. Pittsfield, I think, is doing 13% above net school spending.
13% above?
Yeah, I guess as you go further out west, they have a little more funds in order to be able to do that kind of thing. But yeah, the gateway cities, it's based on educational attainment level, and I think it's median income as well.
Yeah. So how long? Let's put it.
And let me again clarify. I think.
Yeah.
I don't have my laptop in front of me, so.
Yeah. Now, this is your first year.
Yes.
Okay. You got elected. You got sworn in January.
Right.
So you've been on a job 10 months?
Yes.
Going into 10 months. What do you think of, let me ask you this, is it what you expected? So you are, before you ran, you're probably sitting around talking and thinking about maybe making a run for the city council. You did, you were successful, congratulations. You're 10 months into the job. Is it what you expected?
I'll be frank with you. No.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
No, it's not what I expected at all. One of the things that I was talking about while I was campaigning, and I honestly believed, is I was going to approach everything with fact-based argument. That's why I bring my laptop there, so I can research things, and everything that I say has some type of writing that supports it. I figured that kind of argument was going to be able to win the day when you're dealing with my colleagues, and unfortunately, that hasn't been the case.
You found out that there's politics involved.
And it shouldn't be that way, frankly. If you were to talk to me 3 years ago and you said, hey, Rich, I want you to run for office, I would have said, I think you're crazy. But I guess I'd be calling myself crazy 3 years ago. I'm truly doing this because I believe that the residents of the city need help and the city needs help. And I figured that approach would truly be able to help change things. And what it's being combated with is things like I think, I feel, or I heard. And if we have Harvard and Yale, which are right down the road, and we have scholarly evidence and fact-based evidence that supports opinions, we need to look at all the evidence and decide what's best for the residents of Fall River. No. And unfortunately, that approach has not worked for me thus far.
Now, after 10 months on the job, is there anything you might let us know, you can point to, that you feel has been something you're happy you were involved in, you were part of it, and it succeeded in a sense while you've been sitting on the council?
Yeah, I think
definitely the new committee is probably something that you can be very proud of that was formed.
Right. We've only had one meeting with that committee so far. The committee is meant to be a proactive committee. So now that we're kind of in the time frame before a new budget comes out, this is where that committee is going to really have its value. We have a committee meeting coming up 2 weeks from now. I'm looking forward to that. And I think we're going to have a lot more meetings as we get closer to Christmas and into the new year.
So would you be calling people in, like, or asking them to stop down and talk to you at a meeting, like Kathy Amber-Veras?
I would say city administration will probably be one of the last things on the list.
Mary Sahadi?
My goal is to kind of talk to some of the other departments that are less talked to. Let's figure out why they're necessary, and I believe that they probably all are necessary. But I think that people feel like their money isn't being spent efficiently, and I think this is a good way for us to be able to do it. So I think I'm going to start small and work big.
Okay. Do you think after having a department head come down and maybe with an assistant and finding out what they actually do, you might actually recommend to the administration that that department be eliminated or combined with another department?
So that's the best part about this committee, because we can take a look at things and say, is this operating efficiently?
Now, you think that's being done already?
I think the attempt has been done in previous administrations, and I think that this administration has attempted to reorganize to a way that they deem efficient. Whether I agree or disagree with that, the attempt has been there. But I would say that the reason why this committee exists is to make sure that we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's, and the residents are getting the bang for their buck. So another thing that I can point to is these opioid conversations that we're having.
Yeah.
I filed the resolution early on. I've been active trying to help curb this issue, which I think is a huge has a huge economic impact in the negative.
It's devastating.
And never mind the death and everything else and devastation, but we're talking about...
It's ruining people's health.
Right, and the amount of money that's being
dying.
spent that could be spent productively in our economy, that's being spent on, and because everybody always talks about the other stuff, but one of the reasons why we are where we are fiscally is because we're spending tons of money on services for people who need help, and we need to help these folks.
We're getting down to the end. I'm speaking to Richard Cabeceiras, City Councilor here in Fall River. And I've always said that for the last few years or so that anyone who was overdosed and died, that the drug that caused it should be traced back to the supplier, who should be charged with manslaughter. And there's a recent case. Someone's being prosecuted. And let the public know, someone's being prosecuted as we speak for manslaughter. A person that supplied drugs to another person, that person overdosed and died. That is the way, I believe, you stop some of this distribution.
Now here's a question, and I'm just playing devil's advocacy, and I agree with that to a certain extent.
I asked the questions, yeah.
Right, but so the question would be, what if that supplier is a pharmaceutical company? Or what if that supplier is a doctor? And because that happens, realistically, I think there needs to be more of an effort on the federal level.
I think what the case is about is illegal distribution.
Right. But I think that there needs to be more checks and balances at the federal level. If you go to a doctor, you get a prescription and he says,
well, I'm not going to dispute you, but you go to a doctor, gives you a prescription, you get your medication, says take 2 tablets a day. The person goes home and takes 25 tablets that day.
Right. And again, I think there needs to be more checks and balances at the federal level. I think we can close some gaps here, even at the municipal level, and that's why we're having these conversations, because there are some blatant gaps, and we can do some things about this. So thank you so much.
I just want to get this announcement out there once more. This came from one of the debate handlers, producers, and that's going to be Monday, October 17th, 7 p.m. at the BCC Auditorium, and I believe once again it's question number 2.
Yes.
Hit it right. Okay, so if you're interested, stop by 7 p.m. October 17th, Monday night. Richard Cabeceiras, glad to have you, and we're going to have you come back soon and talk about that committee you're on.
Sounds good.
So thank you out there for watching, and I'll see you next time.